you got to be able to create, an evaluation that allows us to say, okay, how are we doing regarding our diversity, equity, and inclusion? Who are we serving? Who are we missing? And then you got to be able to be intentional. Root of racism in America, the idea of racial inferiority was created to justify unequal treatment. Belief in racial inferiority is not what triggered unequal treatment, nor was the fear of racism. It was the exploitation that came first. And then the ideology of unequal races justified this exploitation that followed. So the exploitation was, you are a property of mine. You're not equal as me. I need you to work the field so I can benefit. I need you to work the field so I can get free labor. You belong to me. The exploitation emphasized and magnified the concept of racial division because it justified you having to not have to think of that person as equal. People are not going to have agreements based on certain ideology. That's why we have political parties, right? But the notion of minority groups gaining power and agency. So agency means their ability to exercise their power. And with platforms that we've seen nowadays, people can elevate their voices. They don't have to wait for, someone to give them the right to do so before they do, has caused this friction that we've been seeing on both sides, from the Republican side, the Democrat, the progressive, the liberal. There's a lot of uncertainty. And if you look at American history within the last 30 years, a lot of the movements that have built traction to change has come from not those who are in authority who decide, oh, you know what, we have to change these rules. It always comes from the ground up, from the bottom up. And the more agency people feel they have, the more people advocate for their experiences. On one side, you have those who oppose relinquishing agency and power to minorities, because I don't know what's going to look like if I had a Black person living in my community and I don't need to interact with them. Maybe my kids might interact with their kids. So I'm fine with that. But that Black person decides to run for school board and he's bringing up stuff that, oh no, our communities, we don't talk about that stuff. Why do we need to change the curriculum? And now all of a sudden, the agency that they have, that they feel, starts confronting with the preferences that you have, that you want to have. And in New Hampshire, living in a predominantly white state, you can go about your experience with never having to engage or interact or even see a person of color. Then along, engaging with the person of color from an agency standpoint, from where they're exercising their power and you're exercising your power, and you're trying to figure out, hey, what does it look like to actually be in an inclusive space? But most of the time, it's your influence and your perspective of how you see the world now starts coming out, right? The fears that you might have around certain things. Hey, what happens if they teach that curriculum? Or what happens if that religion perspective or that ideology? I don't know if that's. I live in this community because I was staying away from all the experiences that I had when I was little, or I was staying away from all the other craziness. So why is it coming to our community? That's where the friction is. The friction is not just about ideology. The friction is where change is forced to occur. It's so much easier for us to be external, to disattach ourselves from the issues that are occurring. But it's important for you to reflect on you yourself personally, how you show up, how you treat others, how you consider other, the seat that you create or you pull on the table in order to be welcoming. Remember, it's not just about your intention, but it's about your doing, because your doing is what impacts. That's what makes an impact.
The baseline, my peeps, is that we have to make sure that everybody matters, like their voices matter, and it starts with our kids, because a lot of times that their sense of not mattering, no matter what color, no matter unrepresented, no matter where they come from, it usually comes down the chain of dominoes from their families. So as long as we keep addressing that there's value in voice, there's value in action, and that we do it the right way, I think we're on a good path. So Peace to everybody. Let's do it.
I think, like, for me, I took out of it, in order to grow as a person, you got to get uncomfortable to become comfortable in an unfamiliar situation, to become familiar with it. And in order to learn and understand, and that's what I got out of it.
Everybody's smiling now. It's like the people that don't have their camera on, they're like, oh, you know, I didn't even do my hair today. And are you trying to take a selfie? Like, I'm liking this remote from home. This is not a, sorry, I got to make sure I take a selfie because it happened. We made it happen, guys.